Right, today I want to talk to you guys about how I doubled my egg production in the winter with 3 things, but it really comes down to 1 that's coming up. So if you guys are new here, my name is Curtis Stone. I used to be the urban farmer. Now I'm living off grid, getting out of the city, getting ready for the apocalypse, if you will. And if you're new here, welcome. And yeah, my context is a little different than it has been over the library of my content on YouTube, but this is what we're doing now. And so for greater context, we're living on a mountain and we're totally off grid, grow our own food, produce our own power. We actually harvest our own heat, our own wood heat from the property as well. But one thing I've noticed with eggs, and particularly laying hens, is that in the winter your production goes down. And I think for anybody who's growing or producing eggs and raising birds in a cold climate understands this. I've found that the production goes down significantly. We have 16 laying hens and Brownie Bob there, a rooster, and he's actually 3 months younger than these birds, so he's kind of having to prove himself right now, which is kind of a funny thing to watch. But just about a month ago, before flash, boom, bang, winter's here, about a month ago, we were producing about an egg per bird per day. So we have 16 laying hens, so about 16 eggs per day. Once winter came, boom, down 2/3, going down to actually more, went down to 5 eggs per day production. And you know, that comes down to the cold, lack of light. Our birds were down here before, and which we like this coop. It's a good summer coop. I'm not 100% sure I'm going to keep it though, because I'm telling you, I like this setup so much better, and we'll talk about that in a minute here. But so that's kind of what happens, is that production really goes down, and it's been cold. We're getting down to, so far, our lowest. It's late November as I record this. As our lowest has gone down to minus 17 degrees Celsius. I believe that is actually just 0 Fahrenheit. Yeah, it is. It's 0 Fahrenheit is minus 17 Celsius. We measure things in Celsius up here in Canada. I find Celsius is actually far more practical anyways, because 0 is freezing and 100 is boiling. It's so simple, logic-wise. Anyways, this is my new winter coop setup. And like I said, there's 3 things in this that have doubled my egg production, but they all come down to one thing. What's that one thing? Heat. Getting the birds more heat, but not where you think. I'm not talking about heating my coop. I'm talking about creating a warm place for them to hang out, but giving them the opportunity to heat themselves and protecting the eggs from getting frozen. So we went down to 5 eggs a day before I finished this. I've had this up for 4 nights now, and within the first day, I'm not kidding you, egg production doubled. We went from 5 eggs a day to 10 eggs a day in the first day. So let's show you guys what this is all about. All right, so like I said, this is a trifecta of 3 things to get more heat to these birds. And I'll talk about the coop in a minute, but the first thing is the greenhouse. I set up a really simple greenhouse. It's 9 feet wide, 20 feet long. It's about 7 feet high in the center. So it's a small little tunnel, inexpensive. I had this from a previous, from my previous urban garden. It used to cover 2 raised beds. Now it covers 3 30-inch beds, kind of. I'll have to actually reshape these beds a little bit. But basically this gets the chickens a really comfortable area to hang out in. Currently, it's 8 degrees Celsius in here, 46 Fahrenheit, and outside it's minus 10 Celsius. Okay, so that's a significant difference in temperature. And in here they can relax more, they can hang out, their bodies warm up, so they actually will produce more eggs. Plus they're getting more sunlight and they're just getting out. So even if it was a cloudy day, these birds are out in the open light, opposed to a shaded area, which if you didn't have a greenhouse would probably be most likely what you would do in the winter to keep your birds to have a nice dry area they can scratch around in, because they do not like snow. They will not hang around in snow. And it's kind of a pain in the butt if you have an open area, because you got to keep bringing in dry material to lay down on the ground, like sawdust or wood shavings or whatever. You got to do that, and it just creates work. The beauty of this is that if it snows, boom, all that snow sheds. I don't have to do anything. This greenhouse is a good enough pitch, and it's a small enough of a surface area that it could snow for weeks straight, and I wouldn't have to worry about shoveling away any of the snow, because I've got about 3 feet of vertical. So even whatever slides down is going to pile up here, and it'll pile up like this kind of as it goes, and eventually you might have to, but this greenhouse is small enough and straight enough that I don't really have to worry about it. So that's also one thing that is taken off my hands. I don't have to worry about. The only area I have to kind of manage with snow when we get it is this tiny little area between here. And essentially, this is the entire area for my birds in the winter. So they've gotten a lot, the area's gotten smaller, but in a way it's actually gotten bigger, because down there, the only place that they were really hanging out in front of was right in front of the coop. And otherwise they'd be in the coop. Now granted, that's a bigger coop, but that coop isn't as warm as this coop. And that's the second thing I want to talk about. So this is a lot smaller of a coop, like significantly smaller. This one down here is about 10 feet long, 5 feet deep, and at the high point is about 4.5 feet high. It's significantly bigger. It's also got an underside area they can hang out in, and that's really where they would hang out the most in when they're outside of the coop. But it's an open air coop. So is this, and I believe in the open air coop idea, in that it's better to have open air so that the humidity doesn't build up and then you have condensation, which can lead to hypothermia with your birds. So that's a big part of why you want an open air coop, especially in the wintertime, because the birds actually will heat themselves. So the idea behind this coop is it's significantly smaller, and their roosting area is a lot smaller. So I'll just kind of show you bit of how it works. So this I built this out of a old frame I had for a skid steer implement. So this is kind of a steel cage, essentially, if you will. And I just used it as the base of my framing. I framed a plate, all 2x4 on top, and then I just framed up on top, built a roof. It's very, very simple 2x4 construction. Nothing really to write home about. And because I was limited to this piece of steel I had, it kind of made it so I had to design it in a certain way. So I've got my main hatch for the birds right in the center. That's one of those automatic doors. They close at nighttime and they open in the morning. And then I've got 2 access hatches here and here. In this current configuration, I don't use that one that much. I pretty much just use this one. And that sometimes might be to collect the odd egg that's laying around outside of the egg laying area, or to clean it out. We do the deep litter method. So what we actually just do is, the birds shit everywhere, right? You know this if you raise birds. But what we do is we just keep adding wood shavings on top, and then it kind of starts to compost in a way. In the winter, it doesn't compost because their poop freezes pretty much as soon as it's out of them, and that's actually good because it keeps things clean. But we just keep adding litter, and then every now and then we'll pull it out and then redo it. But we've got about a 20-inch overhang on here in front of their door, which I like just in case it's raining and it's bad weather. They just feel a little bit more enticed and invited to come outside. And then it's sitting 2 feet off the ground, and I've just got this basically fenced with just simple chicken fence around, so they can hang out under the underside of the coop, which they do. And there's also bars on there which are for structure, but they also will roost on those bars as well. And then it just goes to the greenhouse. So like, this is literally their area. Once springtime comes around, I'll actually open up, I'll use my electric fence and get it around the garden. And one thing I'll talk about more in my videos in the future is gardening with chickens, because I really, really believe they're little gardening machines, and I'm excited to move this coop around. But let me show you more of the coop. So that's just for chemtrails, don't worry about that. This here, so this is the back access. So we've got on the back of the coop. Now the basic idea here with this coop is, what I love about it is it's back access, and it's set up in my area. And this is our Passasola greenhouse. So I come here dozens of times a day for going, I want to go pick some peppers or whatever. I come in here. The beauty of having the chickens now closer to our zone 1 is every time I come there, I can just easily come in here and check for eggs, and boom, we got 3, 4, we got 6 eggs there already. So this, you know, this is cranking. So anyways, that back hatch is there, and so coming inside here, this is just a sort of access hatch to just check things out. But here's the roosting bars, and these roosting bars can move around. I like to do that just because if you have to get in here to really overhaul it or clean something, you can do it. But this is where the birds hang out at night, and this is how they keep themselves warm. And so that's the number 2 is, so we got our greenhouse and then the coop, and how they keep, this is how they keep themselves warmer, is they snuggle up in this area, and all 17 birds, Brownie Ben, the henster, the rooster, and the henny pennies, they all get up in here and they snuggle up for the night, and they can all fit in there. And then, so that's number 2. That's how they actually keep themselves warm in an open air coop like this. But the open air is an advantage, so that condensation and humidity does not build up in here, because that will lead to hypothermia. So the third thing about this coop that allows for more egg production is in the egg box itself. So in this little protruded egg box area, I got 3 baskets in here, and I'll just move these just to kind of show you. Underneath these egg baskets, we have these guys. These are heat mats for nursery greenhouses. And this is a little, what is it? It's a 10 by 20 inch heat mat, and it doesn't produce a lot of heat. It produces a very little amount of heat. It works out to be, if I'm touching this right now, if I were to guess, it's 25 degrees Celsius. So it's not hot, but it's warmer than the outside. And so the advantage with this, and this is how another reason why we're getting more egg production, is it makes their nesting area sort of enticing to go to, because it's always warmer. And I did this basically out of observation. In my last coop, I noticed that in the fall and spring, not in the summer, but in the fall and spring, the chickens laid eggs. There's 2 hatches on this coop. They lay eggs on the side that had the sun on it. So they like to, I mean, it makes sense, right? It just makes perfect sense. And so I tried to emulate that with this without the sun. And so that's the idea behind those mats. So those mats don't produce heat, really. I mean, they do, technically, but they're not contributing to any extra heat in this coop. They're just making sure that the eggs that are sitting on that mat will not freeze. And that's actually a legit problem you can have when you're raising birds in a cold climate over the winter. And this will you'll see it. You'll see sometimes a bird will lay an egg somewhere, and then all of a sudden it's cracked because it's frozen, and water expands when it freezes. And but that's actually another great thing about this greenhouse, is if the birds happen to lay an egg in here, as long as I get it during the day, which is when you're going to look for eggs anyways, it'll be fine, because you know it's warm in here. I mean, I think it's even warming up since we started this video. It's already 9 degrees Celsius in here. I think it was 8 when we started. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And this has really made a significant, like, so far it's double. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets even more though, because these birds this is like spring break in Florida, man. They're partying in there. They're so comfortable. They get to scratch around. The ground isn't frozen in here either, because this greenhouse is keeping the precipitation off. They can have their dust bath in here. And the other thing too is I'm also fertilizing these beds. And so this will probably be the first section of beds outside of my 3 other greenhouses that I would seed, that I would put some crops in. Of course, my passive solar greenhouse, my hothouse, and my high tunnel are going to come first, but this will be the next thing to plant out. So that's it. If you guys found the video helpful, smash the like, share the content, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Check out my site fromthefield.tv. It's where I post all my vlogs and the vast majority of all my content. All right, guys, we'll see you in the next one.